Welcome back to K Sports Sunday. I'm Alex Sparth, joined by Little Max, Big Max, Dylan, and Jason. And right now we're going to go over into the Garden, talk some Bruins and some Celtics. Playoffs coming up. Guys, let's go Celtics first. Lately, the Celtics have been struggling. They've had some trouble to win games, some injury problems since the trade. Things haven't gone so well. Is this a matter of making a bad trade and weakening this team, or is it just age and fatigue getting to them?
It's just age and wear and tear. The trade was fine. Perkins is a great player, but he was injured this year. That his injury with his ACL on his knee, that's something you can easily re-tear. Got to get him out. He wasn't going to sign another contract after this year. He's going to get a big deal from somewhere else. Great trade for them, I believe. You get Jeff Green in, great young player who can help solidify this Rondo and Green and Big Baby, a couple of those younger players. I think that it's exactly what we've seen over the past couple of years once we've had the big three. You look at 08, healthy, everyone was healthy, end result, championship. Look at 09, KG, not in the lineup, playoffs, got kind of far. Big Baby had a good run in KG's absence. No championship. Look at last year. A lot of people say it was Kendrick Perkins getting injured, which ended it. KG was not 100%. He was not the same. His legs were hurting him. We had no rebounding for it. The Celtics had no rebounding against the Lakers. No championship. You look at this year. When the Celtics are healthy, there's no question that they're the best team in the East, and they can get to that championship game against the Lakers, who are playing the best basketball and right now look like clear champions. But when they're healthy, that's the question. Will they be healthy? Anyone who can predict that, good for you. You can't predict it.
Anyone who thinks
many players.
Anyone who thinks that the trade was a bad trade, I don't see where you're coming from. People say Perkins, he was the key, he was gritty, he was tough. Come on, he was the center on the team, he was the least talked about player out of the starting five, and they were the #1 seed in the entire East with Perkins out the entire year. They had Shaquille O'Neal starting, and they were the favorites. So if Shaquille O'Neal can come back healthy, Jermaine O'Neal can be healthy, they have everybody back. They improved their bench greatly with Nenad Krstić, with Jeff Green, with Pavlovich, with all these players who can come in and play a little bit. They made themselves better, and the reason they haven't been playing well and are losing to bad teams is because they're getting older. They can't play nights back-to-back on the road, which there are none of in the playoffs, no back-to-back. Also, Shaq has been out for most of the second half of the season. So is Jermaine O'Neal. They've had no clear-cut center, and that's another reason why they haven't been winning games. There's really nothing to worry about here. Once everyone comes back healthy, Shaq coming back today, Jermaine coming back before, everything will work out fine.
If they stay healthy.
If they stay healthy,
And is it a once everybody comes back healthy, or is it an if everybody comes back healthy? When you guys say if, it's really an if. It's these
That's
guys
the question.
are 35-something years old. They've been playing for a long time. Shaq is been playing for almost 20 years now, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. I completely understand what you're saying, because with a team as old as this, you can't really predict it. And any night, Kevin Garnett might go down with a knee injury. Paul Pierce might hurt his ankle or something. I know, I'm being pessimistic, but it's true. It could happen with players at this age. And more likely, Shaq comes back and he's not the same player, or Jermaine doesn't block shots and play defense like he used to. It's a huge if. But if they are all healthy, then I don't think there's anything to worry about.
And that's the problem. When you look at the East as a whole, you have teams like New York, who have their big three much younger. I mean, Chauncey Billups, he's up there, but much younger and much healthier and haven't had those problems in the past. You look at the Heat, they're all young players. They have not had, none of their big three have had problems in the past. You look at even Orlando, they're a young team. Even Chicago with Derrick Rose. I mean, Boozer's had his problems with his injuries, but every other team in the East is much more healthy, much more reliable. They're going to be that team who can keep playing, and they're going to be the same. You look at the Celtics, and you just wonder, are they going to be able, even if they get everyone back, and big if, once again, if they get everyone back, are they going to be able to go right into the playoffs? They might not get everyone until right at the playoffs. Are they going to be able to put it together and not lose a first-round upset to, let's say, the 76ers or even the Knicks? Are they going to be able to pull that off? I don't know, and it's really a scary thought as a Celtics fan.
I think it's kind of a combination of both the trade and injuries, because the trade, not necessarily trading away Perkins, it was trading away Herringody, Erden, and Marquise Daniels for just 2012 second-round draft pick. And because the Celtics are old, they're going to be more prone to injuries. And when they do get injured, it's going to take them longer to recover. So it's because they did get Troy Murphy, but he's done nothing for the Celtics. So because the trade depleted their roster, and because they're old, it's gonna make them more prone to injuries. And as I said before, take them longer to recover from injury.
But they're doing exactly what they've been doing over the last couple of years. You think about just in the past 2 or 3 years, P.J. Brown, Sam Cassell, who else? Stephen Marbury. They just bring back these players who might be done, but they come back and they know they have a specific role on this team, whether it's Arroyo playing that backup role to Rondo and shooting that three in Nate Robinson's absence. Just all these players, they come back, Pavlovich, they know what they have to do. It's just if they're going to be able to execute and if they're going to be able to put it all together. And
like Mikey Moore never could for the Celtics.
Like
one of the worst
cannot.
Players I've ever seen in the Celtics uniform.
But when you look at it, I mean, P.J. Brown was key to that championship run that year. But then you have a guy like, there's too many guys that aren't doing it.
Right.
And you need everyone to come together and
Troy
to play
Murphy.
as a team. Troy Murphy's
Exactly.
done nothing. I can't even look at him on the court. It's just embarrassing to see him in a Celtics green uniform. But that's a different topic. That's personal right here. You just look at it. Are they going to be able to put it all together in the short amount of time with their old age? I just don't think it's going to happen, truthfully.
The problem here is definitely health. I mean, with Shaq on, like, they have no center. And Ad Christian, let's face it, he's more like a shooting guard than a center. He scores a bunch for a center, but he can't play defense for his life. I mean, seriously. I mean, as you guys said before, with Perkins gone and Shaq there, Celtics were amazing. I mean, they were predicted to win the NBA championship. They were the best team in the East, and that's because Shaq was filling up that center. And on offense too, people would double team Shaq, which would leave Ray Allen or Paul Pierce open in the corner. But once Shaq gets back tonight, I think it'll all start pulling together.
So guys, you may remember last week I had a great question and then I just totally blanked out and lost it. Took me a week to remember, but I did. With a possible lockout looming, the Big Three's age getting there, and Doc Rivers, the uncertainty of him wanting to come back, is this year the Big Three's last chance to win a championship together?
You can go first.
Thanks. Even without a lockout, this is their last chance. They're getting too old with Doc Rivers. We weren't even sure if he would come back for this season. He did, but as you said, Alex, this may be his last season. The Celtics, they're just too old, I think. They are tired from what we've seen from the second half of this season. Even without the lockout, this is definitely the last chance to win a championship together.
I have to completely disagree with you. I think that there will be no lockout next season because I believe that the NBA will handle their work stoppage much better than the NFL has handled theirs, and they won't miss any time next season. Also, I think these players are getting older, but they're not in their 40s yet. They're not like that old. They still have a lot of athletic ability, as we've seen. They can keep pace in the East. They were the #1 seed most way through the year, and last year they were in the NBA Finals. They're still a very strong team. Pierce, Allen, Garnett, they're still very strong players in the league and some of the top players. They were all on the All-Star team this year. Also, Doc Rivers, I don't think he's leaving this team. It's too hard to leave a great team like this. I know he wants to spend time with his family, and he says every year will be his last year, but when you are the coach of one of the best teams in the league, it is very, very difficult to walk away from all of that.
I think it could be their last year, but I think every year could be their last year. It's how they're going to be able to do it at the end of the season. You look at this year. Started off strong. They were 23-4 after 27 games. That's outstanding. Then you look at another team just like them. I'm going to use this comparison, the San Antonio Spurs. Real old nucleus right there. Their AARP center squad right there. They've sort of slowed down lately. They're still one of the best teams. They still have that #1 slot, but they've slowed down significantly since the beginning of the season. And can these teams, these older teams, put it together? I think that they can put it together for a certain amount of time, but to make a deep playoff run where you're playing a lot of games in a short amount of time against the top teams, a lot of younger talent, I think that this could be their last straw, especially if there's a lockout and they have to take that year off, which I agree with you. I don't think there will be, but if there is, that could be a serious stagger for them. And truthfully, I don't think Doc Rivers, I think he's a good coach. He has a championship. Not many people can say that. But I think that he has been surrounded by talent. Back in the years before the Big Three, not much talent on the team, and he didn't really do anything. I think it's more about Danny Ainge being able to bring in these players. And I understand if he wants to take some time off, be with his family. He's got his son, who's one of the best high school players in the country. He's going on to Duke next year. If he wants to watch him, maybe see him go through his NBA career without having to coach a different team, I understand that. I think that the Celtics will be fine. A lot of people, just like the Yankees in baseball or other teams like that, the Celtics are who everyone wants to coach. They're that team in history that is just on a different level, although the Lakers are creeping up on them. I don't think the Celtics will have a problem bringing in another coach, maybe an older guy who has been off for a little while, or even one of these younger coaches coming in. I think everyone wants to coach Boston. And if Doc's there, if Doc's not there, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference.
Well, first of all, there's not going to be a lockout this year. At least that's what I think. You know, as I said, the NBA will work better than the NFL because Roger Goodell is a terrible commissioner, in my opinion, but that's a different story. But even if there was a lockout, I don't think it would be their last chance. You know, like you said, every year could be their last year, but it isn't. I think they want to win. They're not going to stop until they get to the finals.
Not many teams have 4 Hall of Famers on the court at any point.
They're not going to stop until they at least get to the finals
Possibly
more time.
5.
One more time, because that's just their passion for the game. They have like the most heart in the game right now, and I think that definitely will help them get to the finals this year.
But it's almost back like our college basketball talk. You have Butler, the underdog story. They have all that heart. And then you have Connecticut, who's pure talent. And when you look at the NBA, there are plenty of teams which are much more talented. The Miami Heat, I'll say, they're a much more talented team. They're younger. They have the better players straight up one-on-one than the Boston Celtics. But the Celtics, they have that experience. They've been here. They've been to the championship 2 out of the last 3 years. I think that experience plays a role, but in the end, I think that talent is what wins you championships. And I think that some of these younger teams, like the Bulls or like the Heat or even the Magic, I think some of them are going to start to dominate the East.
If Doc Rivers, if he leaves while his son's in the NBA, that means probably most of the big 3 will probably be gone by then. So it may be harder for the Celtics to.
It'll be 1 year though.
Coach.
Austin Rivers is going to go to Duke, have fun there, and then be right in the NBA, first pick in the draft the year after.